Good evening, Board Chair, Board members, and Superintendent Dr. Romano. My name is Terri Dewey, and I'm the principal at Spring Hill Elementary School. I'm here to talk about the substantial facilities and technology needs at Spring Hill. We are an old school, knocking on about 40 years old, and we have very little technology infrastructure at Spring Hill, and our buildings are old, they're small, and they're in constant need of repair. So I'm going to go over a few things we need, and I'll tell you a couple of little stories in there, but there are many stories of things that we need that are constantly happening on campus, and we're constantly patching and repairing and making do with things because there are not funds. We do very well with internal funds for things like we have a couple pallets of paper ready. We have the cabinets full of pens and ink and that sort of thing. But when you're talking about big things, we don't have those kind of funds, and I know the district doesn't either. And so when we have a big issue and we call Sean, he has to also do patching and that sort of thing. So I'll mention infrastructure first. We have in our 100 building, which is one of our oldest buildings, most of the classrooms only have like one outlet on the wall, and a few have been added since. But we have a couple of computer labs. Now, when I say computer labs, some of the newer buildings have, 60, 90 computers in a lab. I'm talking 34 machines in one room and about 34 machines in the other room. When we put the second room in that building, that maxed the power grid out in that 100 building. So there can be no other outlets, nothing else can be added to that 100 building. We would like to have in those classrooms the ceiling mounted projectors. The teachers would like to not have wires everywhere, and we constantly get marked down from Bill Hall whenever they comes out because we do have wires everywhere, but we can't add another outlet because there can be no more power to that. That would be a tremendous expense to add that, but we'd love to have technology in that building, but nothing else can be added there. So power grid upgrades need to be in that building, plus none of the others have those kind of ceiling mounted projectors or any other kind of technology like that across campus. We have, of course, like everyone else, the 7-year-old desktops, the 7-year-old laptops. They're all starting to die and fall apart. We're salvaging as much as we can, but we need replacement for those. The old printers that go with them, we need replacements for. We need testing labs, whether it be an actual lab, which we don't have a lot of buildings that have the infrastructure for that, or if we bought the laptop carts that we could take from room to room, because as FSA rolls down and we do more and more testing online, we need those computers and that technology to be able to do that. We would like to have tablet devices in our classrooms and in our libraries so that students can have digital reading devices. We would like kids to be able to check those out and take those home as well. We would like studio equipment so that we can do our morning news show and things like that. Ours is very old. It still runs on an old Apple machine that we've salvaged from years and years ago before we even got the Dell program. We need interactive tables and tablets that the kids can do research on and do collaborative projects on to bring them up to the 21st century. We don't have any of that. We would like to have speaker systems in the buildings. We have one building that has some of that in it, which has been very good for our ESE students who have had issues with hearing. When we have a classroom like that, we try to put a student in it, but it's been very advantageous for the students, but we only have one building that has capability for some of that. So we would, of course, love to have that in several of the buildings. Our air conditioner units have gone down, and as a matter of fact, last year during FCAT testing and this year during FSA testing, we had air conditioner units down. We were calling Sean because we were worried about the students not doing as well on testing because it was hot in the rooms. And our 100 building is where those the earlier story I told you about the not having enough power grid to add anything else. A couple of years ago, we had leaks there on our computers, and they patched it, and we were told at the time that that would be fine for probably 3 or 4 years, but then after that, we were going to have that roof redone. So that building is 2 pieces. The newer piece is the cafeteria, and then there's an older piece that's actually the oldest building on our campus. That's where the patches were done. Within the next few years, according to what we were told a few years ago when they patched that older piece is going to need a new roof. We have the same issues with floors that several of the other schools have mentioned. We have tile that's chipping and coming up. We have old carpets that are not in good shape anymore. Our covered walkways need overhauled. Some of them are drooping down when it rains. There are several places it's like walking under a waterfall because so much rain comes between the gaps in it. We had a couple areas where we actually put up caution tape and we didn't let kids go through there because it was sagging so much. We were afraid that it would actually fall. It was holding water on the top. We were afraid it would fall on a kid. So we took the kids around that when it was raining. We have some drainage areas near our office and over in our 900 building where the water puddles up. And one is at the back of the front office, and you can't go out of the back of the front office without either jumping or we just don't go out of the back of the front office when it rains heavily because the drainage is not right. And the 900 building is similar. And at certain times of the year when it rains a lot, we actually at one point had some boards across one of the areas in the back where the kids got on the bus because there was so much water in that area. It was so low that it would just, when it was raining, it was a rainy afternoon, it was like a little river flowing through there. And so we would put boards across for the kids to walk across to get to the buses. Our front office conference room, when the buildings were built, the rooms are very small, and there's blueprints at school where before I came, there was a plan to build a bigger office for Spring Hill on that property that's across from us. We call it the grass parking lot there on Robles. But when we have meetings, IEP meetings now, the conference rooms are so small. By the time you put the desk for the staffing person and a table in there with like 10 chairs around it, and some of our conferences have more people than that, they can't all fit in there. And then the air conditioning is not keeping up. It's very hot. It's not very comfortable or inviting for our parents. We really do need some bigger spaces there and some better furniture to put the parents in when they come. It's not a very inviting environment, and you should see how they're packed in there in some of the meetings. That parking lot that I mentioned really needs to be paved. We have a lot of parents complain about their cars are going to get torn up from the big holes that are over there that get washed out when it rains. We had a parent complain about they were going to trip coming from that parking lot over to the school. So we talked with Sean and we did get an area paved right where they come out of the parking lot over to the school. However, only a small area right there, and at the very edge where they had to step up from the parking lot into the school area, and then we had a gentleman fall there and get hurt, an elderly gentleman. So that parking lot is very rough out there. It's very bumpy, and that is something I feel that should happen because a lot of parents do complain about the condition of the parking lot and having to drive their cars there. We have some leakage issues with the water fountains and the fountains on the playgrounds as well, the water fountains in the hallways. I mentioned the carpet. One of the areas is our carpet in our library that's starting to look very worn in certain areas. And we do have late nights where we invite parents in for AR nights and they get extra points. And so it would be very nice if that looked nice when they came in and if the carpet looked good for the kids to sit on and read and do their activities. And then I would say probably after looking, if you go to trainings and you look and they put up pictures of what the classroom's supposed to look like and you're watching and seeing all these beautiful classrooms and some of the newer schools you go to, you see them. If you use that as a judgment of what the classroom is supposed to look like, probably 75% of our chairs and desks need to be replaced. They're old, the legs are starting to get broken, the tables are chipped, the formica's starting to come off and that sort of thing. So a lot of the furniture at Spring Hill is very old, and it's been years since we've had any capital outlay that we've been able to purchase any of that stuff. We've done some fundraising. Last year we bought some tables for some of the classrooms. We've bought bulletin boards to go in a couple of different hallways and those sort of things. But it's been years since there's been any money for us to purchase any sort of things like that, much less some of the smaller things like the radios that we use to communicate. A lot of those don't work very well. The curtains on the stage are looking old. Those need to be replaced, and those are smaller things, but it's like $1,000 for a set of those, and those are not the sort of things that we have internal funds to do. And then equipment-wise, the custodians struggle because a lot of the equipment is run down by this point. They're constantly taking stuff from one machine to another to fix another machine. We have a couple of the machines that had they partially help pull themselves because of how heavy they are, but that no longer happens. So they're now pushing them, and they're very heavy. We need strippers. We need burnishers to keep the tile up. We need the auto scrubbers, the carpet cleaners. I think we're down to one of those that's working. The vacuum packs, we only have a few of the ones that are the backpack style that work any longer. Our pressure washer no longer works. We bought one of the small cheap ones at Lowe's. to do some of our cleaning with, but it's not a big one that we'll do like you want something big and high powered for school, especially for reaching the high areas. Our security cameras, we need more of those. We only have a couple on campus. Our playground equipment is very old, and we only have really one major set that's right in the middle of campus that we have 750 students that share. We need electronic gates, locks, and some digital signage. It would be nice to have something like that we could update how we communicate with parents with. So that is our list of things that we feel like would help get us caught up, get us where we kind of where our school looks a little better, and where we're a little safer and it's a little more appropriate. We're not, putting boards over little miniature rivers to get to the bus.